Hi, we've been following Joshua on his road to leadership. And today, as we conclude that, we see that Joshua was more than a man who was just appointed to be leader or selected by a committee. He was one that was chosen by God. And what an example that is for us. As we look for someone to be a leader over us, look for one who's chosen by God. When we want to know if we are to be a leader, ask yourself, am I in the place that God has appointed and chosen me to be? We pick up today 40 years after Joshua and the spies came back with a report that the Israelites were ready to enter the promised land. Of course, they didn't do it then. 40 years have passed. And now, after those 40 years, the Lord reminds Moses, their leader, that he will not be going into the promised land with them. In Numbers 27, verses 12 and 13, now the Lord said to Moses, "Go up to this Mount Abarim and see the land which I have given to you, to the children of Israel. And when you have seen it, you also shall be gathered to your people as Aaron your brother was gathered." Well, Moses was expecting that. He had been told that years ago that he would not make it into the promised land, but something was weighing heavy on his heart. He had been the leader of the people, and he had a great concern. Like any good leader, he was thinking about his successor. Who would lead Israel after his death? And verses 15 and 17, he replies to the Lord. Moses said to the Lord, "Let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation who may go out before them and go in before them, who may lead them out and bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord may not be like sheep which have no shepherds." Moses wanted God to appoint the one that he would qualify to be a leader. Now, at this time, there are three possible candidates. Moses thought, he said, well, now, it could be Eliezer. He's the priest. He is a spiritual leader. Yeah, he would do okay. Then there's Caleb. Caleb is a man who loves God with all of his heart, and the Spirit of the Lord is upon him. Yeah, Caleb would work out. Then there's Joshua. Well, Joshua's been my assistant, but to take over the leadership, I don't know, but he's a possibility too. Lord, who do you want to take my place? Verse 18, and the Lord said to Moses, "Take Joshua, the son of Nun, with you, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay your hand on him." See, when we think about Joshua, his real qualification was the Spirit's power within his life. Moses was instructed to commission Joshua and to transfer some of his authority. In verses 19 through 21, he said, set Joshua before Eliezer the priest and before the congregation and inaugurate him in their sight. And you shall give him some of your authority, that all the congregation of the children of Israel may be obedient. And he shall stand before Eliezer the priest, who shall inquire of the Lord for him by the judgment of the Urim. At his word they shall go out, and at his word they shall come in, he and all the children of Israel with him, all the congregation. You see, this inauguration was to be made public before all the people and also before Eliezer the priest, so that they would know that they were to follow Joshua after the death of Moses. When we think about Joshua, we can see three marks of a leader that's appointed by God that we can look for today. These same marks are there. First of all, a real leader has the call of God upon them. Joshua was called by God to lead the people. Secondly, they had the necessary gifts. Joshua had leadership ability. Now, you might say, well, I can't put anyone there that doesn't have experience. Joshua had the ability, and he had a lot of experience in a lot of different things, but he'd never led a nation before. You find someone with the giftings from God, and God will be able to give them the experience that they need. And secondly, there was a public ordination to the office. Joshua was publicly brought before the people and announced that they recognized him as a leader. It's been said that if you think you're a leader and you look behind and no one's following you, well, you're just going out for a walk. Later, after Moses' death, we're going to see that the people followed Joshua just as they did Moses. Joshua was qualified to be the leader, and he was commissioned for that. But it said in certain areas, he was still to submit and to seek the input from Eleazar the priest. He was to go to him for counsel. Eleazar was to seek God's will. You see, Joshua's real gifting was leadership and not prophecy. And it's very important if you're a leader to recognize you can't do everything. You can't do everything by yourself. God never anointed or appointed lone rangers. He expects us to work together as a body. And even as he called Moses, he brought Aaron alongside of him. When he said Joshua will lead the people, anoint him, give him some authority, but he's still going to need Eleazar. If you find yourself in a place of leadership, look for other leaders that God will raise up around you, that will support you, and that you will support them, because that's God's planning. Then there came the real transfer of leadership. Now, Moses had announced that Joshua would be his successor, but it was not until a whole year later that Moses announced to the children of Israel, hey, I'm not going with you. We skip over to Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verses 2, 3, and 6. And Moses said to them, I'm 120 years old today. I can no longer go out and come in. And also, the Lord has said to me, you shall not cross over this Jordan. The Lord your God himself crosses over before you. And Joshua himself crosses over before you, just as the Lord has said. Be strong and of a good courage. Do not fear nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God is with you. He is the one who goes with you, and he will not leave you nor forsake you. Moses told the people, God and Joshua, both of them are going to go with you to possess the land. Moses told the people in Joshua's hearing to be strong, to be courageous, and he was to do this only because the presence of the Lord continued with them wherever they went. And God is the one who would give them the land. See, this took the load off of Joshua. Joshua was not going to give them the land. God himself would give it. And then Moses encourages Joshua. Though Joshua was experienced in a lot of brave acts, he led the war against the Amalekites. He went halfway up the mountain with Moses. He was a spy going into the promised land. Still, he entered a new position. And when he did that, Joshua was given the very same instructions that Moses had given to all the other people. In Deuteronomy 31, 7 and 8, then Moses called Joshua and said to him, in the sight of all Israel, be strong and of a good courage, for you must go with this people to the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. And the Lord, he is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be dismayed. Oh, what a great promise. You see, God would be with Joshua and he would never forsake him. He would never leave him no matter what happened. And Joshua would be able to accomplish all that God had called and commissioned him to do. Moses says he's going to cause you to inherit the land. And he was assured that God would not fail him. And just like Joshua, your expectation, however strong and however extensive it is, it can never be disappointed. You cannot expect too much from God. Joshua's going in expecting to conquer an entire nation made up of a lot of countries and a lot of different governments. He was going into a land with thousands of people that he had to lead. He had some big expectations, but God was greater. And never what God has called you to be and to do. Know that he is with you, and what he has planned for you, he will help you perform. So we see that Joshua has been inaugurated by Moses, but now a greater inauguration is coming up. God is moving in on the scene in a new way. The day that Moses died, he and Joshua went into the tabernacle of meeting. And in Deuteronomy 31:14, the Lord said to Moses, behold, the day approaches when you must die. Call Joshua and present yourselves in the tabernacle of meetings that I may inaugurate him. So Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves in the tabernacle of meeting. We've already seen how that Moses had publicly inaugurated Joshua. Now, God confirms this by his presence and his approval. And again, God encouraged Joshua and assures him of his presence. In verse 23, he said, then he inaugurated Joshua the son of Nun and said, be strong and of good courage, for you shall bring the children of Israel into the land of which I swore to them, and I will be with you. Joshua, right after that, becomes the new leader of Israel. In Deuteronomy 34, verses 5 through 9, we read about the death of Moses. And after he died, there was a 30-day period of public mourning. Once that time of mourning was ended, the Israelites officially recognized Joshua for his wisdom and the call of God on his life in Deuteronomy 34:9. Now Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hand on him. So the children of Israel heeded him and did as the Lord commanded Moses. There are three things here that confirm Joshua's call. First of all, God had chosen him. Secondly, Moses had ordained him. And thirdly, the people accepted Joshua and submitted to him. So we see in Joshua 1 through 4, we see God's call confirmed in Moses. It was important to be recognized by the people if he was going to lead them. But you know what was even more important? That was to be recognized by God himself. And Joshua, who was the appointed and inaugurated leader of Israel, immediately assumes his leadership as God speaks to him. In Joshua 1:2, it says, Moses, my servant, is dead. Don't you just love how sometimes God just states the obvious to you? Sometimes he does that to get your attention and to help you move on like he did Joshua. So he says, my servant is dead. Now arise and go over this Jordan, you and all this people, to the land which I am giving them. Joshua was not like Moses. And when God told him that Moses was dead, he was not just stating the fact, but he was saying, not only is the person Moses has died, but also the way of leadership of Moses has died. Joshua, you're not like him. You are not like Moses at all. You're not a prophet. You're not a civil leader. You did not receive a miraculous call through a burning bush. And knowing all those things probably caused a new doubt and fear to rise within Joshua. Have you ever doubted your calling? Have you ever looked at your abilities and looked at someone else's and said, I don't know if I can do it. I can't do it like they did. God doesn't expect you to. Joshua knew that his success as a leader would depend more on his spiritual state and relationship with God and his obedience to God rather than his abilities and his military strategies. As with Moses, God promised to be with him. Joshua would be undefeatable, but only if he remained strong because of God's presence. But this was a promise that Joshua needed to hear over and over again. And that's why as we look at Joshua 1, verses 6, 7, and 9, we're going to hear it over and over again. Verse 6, be strong and of good courage. Verse 7, only be strong and very courageous. Verse 9, be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. That promise is same today. It is true for you as a leader today, just as it was for Joshua thousands of years ago. You have been chosen and you have been equipped to lead in whatever capacity and in whatever place the Lord has placed you. Your success, just like Joshua, will always, always, always depend upon the courage that you have to move ahead, because you have to constantly remind yourself that the Lord is with you wherever you go. That's what made Joshua a great leader, and that is what will make you a great leader as well.